Mike. So yeah, I definitely encourage everybody to talk with Casis. I know a number of the researchers that are here have already either flown or have been talking about flying. So definitely check out the opportunities that they have. There's a lot that might be able to come from the microgravity side of this. So next up, who we're going to introduce, who we're going to introduce is David Gobel. Dave has been a key figure in the New Oregon Alliance since its beginning, and Dave has really been the kind of brainchild behind everything with the New Oregon Alliance. Dave is the co-founder and CEO of the Methuselah Foundation. The Methuselah Foundation has done a lot of great supporting roles for research in the longevity, human health, bioengineering, tissue engineering space. They've, I think, funded $4 million or more of research that's been out there in these space areas. So the Methuselah Foundation has been a really fabulous backer of all of the work that we've done with the New Oregon Alliance. Has been a key player in getting all of this together. So Dave is going to tell you a little bit more about just where all of this came from, and has a great mind for innovative ways to move forward and commercializing the new technology as well. So please give a great welcome to Dave Gobel.
So at my funeral, Josh, you got a good spot. Thank you. So before I begin my brief remarks, you're welcome, I'd like to introduce Sebastian Giwa, who has no idea I'm going to introduce him. Would you stand up for a moment? In addition to the New Oregon Alliance, Sebastian, I basically kidnapped him from a hedge fund, right? In order to take another element, there are many missing pieces in this puzzle. One of them is, once you succeed in developing these tissues, what's going to keep it alive and not get rotten? And the answer, we hope, will be coming from the Organ Preservation Alliance, which has as its remit the successful banking of organs and tissues, right? So, Sebastian gave up a very lucrative career in order to make an actual difference. And so, thank you very much. So if any of you want to be kidnapped, just let me know. So, the foundation has been trying to create a pipeline of possibility to achieve its goal to make new parts for people. It, to my way of thinking, is a travesty that you can get parts for your car, brand new, but you can't get parts for people. That's just silly. And one day it will be incomprehensible to children going to school that that was once the case. But I'm glad that you're here because we're going to fix it. And although it may seem like just another conference, one day you'll be proud that you were here. I certainly am. So the foundation, the Methuselah Foundation, wanted to be different than other foundations. Most foundations have as their goal to end something, and cancer and kidney disease and so forth. What we wanted to do was to create something that was falsifiable. So we decided that we would make a hard deadline. That is to make 90 the new 50 by 2030. If you look at your watch, you'll see that 2030 is not that far away. 12 years, and yet it is possible if we include all the technologies that are being created simultaneously that are clever about how we do what we do. So as a foundation, it forces us to be audacious, pragmatic, highly selective, and only support that which moves the needle in a significant way. None of that has anything to do with making a lot of money. Because it's a foundation, I'm not allowed to make a lot of money. Thank you, Uncle Sam. However, that's good because I'm focused on what will move the needle scientifically. So, in order to determine, that is, to measure our progress, we've developed a new metric that we call return on mission. If you're in the finance business, you know about return on investment, right? So how much money you put in, how much time elapses, what's the discount rate, then you can calculate your ROI. But return on mission is, in my way of thinking, how many lives were saved? How many people did not suffer that otherwise would have suffered? What was the return on mission for the cure for polio, the polio vaccine? It's truly incalculable, but if it hadn't happened, we'd still be dealing with it. And so we want to follow that same pathway and end stuff. Nothing will make me happier than to retire from the Methuselah Foundation because it isn't needed anymore. So, examples of our return on mission. So there was this company called Silverstone, and they had a technology called MatchGrid. They had presented at the demo conference, which in its day was the big deal beauty contest for IT startups. Silverstone was working in an area that was brand new, and that was paired kidney donation chain software, in order to make more kidneys available than would otherwise be available. It was software. So it's a competition, so they came in number one at the demo conference, which is a big deal. And not one VC, not one venture capitalist would invest because they couldn't see how to make money. And I didn't know any of this. One day a friend of mine called me and said, hey, listen, this guy who's been he spent $500,000 of his own money because he got polycystic kidney disease, and then went through the sausage grinder of the hospital industrial complex, no offense to anybody, and looked at what was medieval software and said, hey, I could fix this. And so he spent his money and tried to fix it. It got to a point where he was in a hospital, UCSF or one of those, and it worked, but it was only one hospital. And he was running out of money, running out of patients, and he was still kind of a sick individual. Had to pay his mortgage, all those fun things. Anyway, through a friend of a friend of a friend, I became aware of it, and I reached out, and the foundation thought, well, we know people who can't get kidneys. I don't know if you're aware of it, but there may be 125,000 people on the kidney wait list, but then there may be 1 million people who need kidneys who don't even qualify for the list. How would you like to be one of those people? You'd hate it. You don't even qualify to be on the list to wait. So, I knew people like that. One of my best friends was like that. So we thought, okay, we'll invest. So here is what's happened. After 2 years of agony, if you've ever done software development, the software reached a point where it was working beautifully. And it was sold to a hospital services company that specialized in transplants. That's the way the founder wanted it to be. And now there are 1,000+ people who are not dead, who got kidneys that might otherwise not have received them. But what I'm most proud of is that a few of those folks are 70 years old and older, who would absolutely not have been allowed to get kidneys. Some of them may have suffered at one point from cancer. And so it's made a change. So there's a return on mission. In the space of 2 years, 1,000 people not dead, and it's scalable. It's software. And we got our money back with a little bit of interest, so that was good too. It's in 35 hospitals now, including the EU and Saudi Arabia. So, our current approach to investing is little r, big D. We don't want to solve the great mysteries of life. We want to wait until the research component is almost done and that it's time to move on to engineering. For instance, the tissue engineering field is now called engineering. It's in the D stage. And so in order for us to make our 2030 deadline to make 90 the new 50, that's why we're putting much of our attention and investment in this area. When we don't exactly know how to make the next stage of progress, that's where prizes come in. Prizes are like the dynamite in a log jam. You look at the log jam and you go, no way. There's no way we'll ever be able to undo that log jam. Then you buy some NASA dynamite, you toss it in there, and it blows it to smithereens. And now that rate limiter of microvascularity is gone. The people who got rid of it become famous and wealthy, at least I hope so. And even those who don't win are also going to have the same thing, because there's one thing you can be assured of. Venture capitalists are very competitive, and so they will begin to hopefully over-invest in an area, and then it's up to us to make it work. So there's one other company I want to highlight here, and that's Leucadia Therapeutics. Have you been paying any attention to the Alzheimer's arena? How every single effort to cure Alzheimer's has come up a dry well, empty, nothing. Pfizer, for instance, had 300 people working on Alzheimer's and just ended the whole program. So in 2015, Methuselah Foundation was listening to a presentation from a professor of neuroscience who said, I don't want to spend the rest of my life making money on a failed idea. And so I started over. I started over and said, I'm going to go back to Anatomy 101 and figure out what's really causing this problem. Now that's when I started listening, because the man was intellectually humble and didn't care as much about the money as actually solving the problem, and didn't want to take the easy way out. And he was saying this in public. So I thought, that's somebody worth talking to. So we talked. Now he was a tenured professor, and I said, would you like to start a company on this idea? He said, are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. So we started a company. About 6 months ago, he left tenure in order to pursue what's turning out to be very successful. So we hope that we have good news by the end of this year. So the kinds of research that has been carried on up until recent years takes 10 to 15 years to find out if it's really any good. That is just too long. So the foundation focuses on things that by hook or by crook can be falsified within 2 years to get to proof of principle, proof of concept, reduce the scientific risk that allows us to take something into a company. And then companies face existential risk. When was the last time, Monsi, that the government ran out of money? The 10th of never. But actual commercial companies, they face the wall. And that really focuses the mind to get product to market or die. So that's the only reason we support companies, in order to get treatments to the clinic. The work that you're doing will be of absolutely no value if it retains, maintains, continues to be scientific curiosity. So in addition to the scientific breakthroughs that you will make, you will also at some point need to make business breakthroughs and regulatory breakthroughs, and be open-minded about how you're going to test things. Find less expensive ways to carry out the research, and then solve the vascularity limit so that surgeons have more options than just removing parts, which they're really good at, but instead can begin adding new parts to people. So, thank you for coming. Please enjoy the conference. Thanks, Josh, for all your hard work. It goes noticed, and we appreciate it. And thank you for all the roadmap committee members. You're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and we appreciate that too. Thanks.
2 years ago, my organization, the Space Portal, was asked to take over a project, to initiate a project which turned into the Frontier Development Lab. And the way it was structured was that subject matter experts from planetary sciences and astrophysics collaborated with domain experts and subject matter experts in artificial intelligence and machine learning through the interface of postdoc students in an 8-week period of time. One of the first things they addressed was to try to find asteroids which are potential killer asteroids. And at the time, we only had radar data to work with for this first run, which is not very high quality data. When we began the program, it's an 8-week program, when we began the program, only 4 orbits had been calculated from this data, and that was 4 orbits in the entire history of radar data. At the end of 8 weeks, using AI and machine learning with that collaboration between the subject matter experts and the AI experts, they had done 1.5 million orbits in 8 weeks. That wasn't the only one. The other time they had to do a structure, try to characterize the structure and the topography of asteroids. It was taking experts over 3 months to do one. They got it down to under a couple of hours. The second year, the AI actually made a discovery about finding data that would be diagnostic of a solar flare, significant solar flare, hours before some of the earlier previous efforts had been able to do it. So one of the things that we're all trying to do here, the Vascular Tissue Challenge ends September 30th, 2019, is we're trying to accelerate and make use of your time. So we had the rare opportunity, one of the participants in the Frontier Development Lab was a company named Miso, and we are lucky today to have the CEO, who is lucky to have, as part of the Vascular Tissue Challenge Summit, an AI component that he's going to introduce to you. This is something a service he's donating to this group. So I would like, without any further ado, to introduce Miso and Lucky, the Chief Executive Officer. Thank you.